My first question is, do Japanese people wear kimonos a lot, and are they still a tradition in Japan? Well, that's going to be a long answer because they are still worn. They're usually used only for special occasions, like you would wear a tuxedo or a very nice dress. But there's many different kinds and many different types throughout the different seasons in Japan. So let me go into a little bit of detail on this one. The first type I'm going to talk about is the furisode, and the furisode is a type of formal kimono worn by young women before they get married, and sometimes these are even worn on their 20th birthday to show they finally entered womanhood. The next type I'm going to talk about is the tomesode, and that is worn by married women. It is a black formal kimono, and it's worn to show that they're married, and it also is usually used for formal occasions. Homongi is another type of formal kimono, usually worn on New Year's Days for parties and different events hosted on that day. There's different types worn by different professions in Japan that are still used in everyday business today. Let me go ahead and list those. First type is maiko, and this is somewhat related to what a geisha would wear. It's actually a formal kimono worn by young women who entertain. And by entertain, I just mean dance or put on small plays or sing or play shaimasen. If you want to read Memoirs of a Geisha, it'll explain some of the activities these women would do in greater detail. It's a really great book. I'm sure you've heard of it. Kannushi is kind of a Shinto priest, and he wears a special type of kimono which is obviously used for special ceremonies in traditional wear. Soryo is a Buddhist priest, and they wear a kimono which consists of a black jacket covering and a white kimono underneath. Sometimes those colors do differ, and obviously, once again, just like the Shinto priest, this is worn for ceremonies. Bikishi is the type of kimono worn by sumo wrestlers, and you'll see these worn all throughout the year by them. And it's a rather large kimono because it's rather large men, and it's once again a black jacket, usually with a darker color underneath, such as navy blue or even black again. Rakugoka is a type of entertainer who would tell stories, and he wears a type of kimono too. It almost looks like the sumo one in my opinion, but I'm sure there's a lot more differences that I'm not noticing. It's usually a darker color, grays, dark browns, or blacks. Nakai is the last one I want to talk about, and that would be if you go to a traditional Japanese restaurant and are served by women there, they will most likely be wearing this type of kimono. It's usually floral patterns and also colors that are warm, such as pink, red, or maybe a light orange. Now also there is a different type of less formal kimono known as a yukata, usually worn during spring or summer season. And this is a lighter with very few layers and allows a lot more breathing in the material, and is a lot more comfortable during hanabi parties or festivals that are held during the summer and spring months in Japan. Now, there's different parts of a kimono. If you know the elaborate formal kimono or have read something like Memoirs of a Geisha, I'm sure you've heard of the different parts that they have. I'll tell you about each of those. Let me start. Hadajuban is kind of the top covering, almost like a very large shirt or like a karate gi top. Susoyoke is the lower body covering and is kind of like maybe a large belt is my best description I can give it. You would really have to see it to understand what it looks like. There's the obita and obimakura, and those are kind of like cushions that go underneath the obi before it is tied, and that actually cushions the wearer from the belt that loops around and the obi that loops around. And the obi is a large piece of cloth, almost like I would say comparable to a very large scarf, and it works as a belt and is folded in elaborate ways for different customs and different celebrations. And if you read a little bit into it, you'll realize that it's tied different every time for different occasions and means different things. The last part I want to talk about is the koshihimo, and that is a belt that loops inside of the obi and keeps it in place while the woman wears her kimono. Okay, that covers everything about kimonos. Like I said, it's elaborate. I hope I explained everything that I can. I'm sure I left quite a bit out. If you have any more questions, email me with that one. Alright, my last question is about host and hostess clubs. Since I made a documentary where I talked a little bit about those, I've been getting a lot of questions. You know, I could try to explain a lot about those in this FAQ, but there's actually a documentary I want to refer you to, and I think you can probably find it online. I would suggest you buy it because the people who make it deserve the money. It's called The Great Happiness Space. And if you can get a hold of this documentary, I would highly suggest you watch it if you want to learn more about host and hostess clubs. It's probably the best documentary I've ever seen on the subject. It interviews multiple hosts and hostesses and lets them tell you a little bit about what they do, what their job is, and what their life is like, and the darker side of what comes with the grim reality that is being a host and hostess. Okay? That's enough for FAQ 14. Keep sending the questions. Have a good one.